All right, so y'all go ahead and do the factoring and the math knowledge question for today. Pause the video, and then once everyone is finished, you can unpause the video, and I'll go over the correct answers. So for this one, you're going to have x minus 7 times x plus 2. For the math knowledge question, C cars use a total of G gallons of gas per week. So the rate of gas per car would be G over C. And we want to know how many gallons are used by 5 cars in 2 weeks. So this is the rate for 1 car for 1 week. And so we're going to multiply it by 5 cars and by 2 because we want to know for 2 weeks. So that gives you 10G over C, which is E for your answer. All right, so we're looking at lesson 10 today. We're skipping lesson 8 and 9 because those are more geometry lessons. They're dealing with proofs and that kind of thing. So we're going to briefly look at a couple of examples from them, but we're not going to focus much on them because most of it should be review. So we're looking at proportional segments, angle bisectors, and side ratios. And then equation of a line, that's where lesson 10 starts, rational denominators, and completing the square. So we're going to review quickly some things from 8 and 9, but we're really going to focus on lesson 10 today. So hopefully you'll understand how to do most of this after the lesson. So this is a quick review from Algebra 2, hopefully. You want to make 2 fractions, and basically you're just going to do this one over this one equals this one over that one. So x plus 1 over 13 equals x plus 4 over 19. And then you're going to cross multiply to get 19x plus 19, and then 13x plus 52. And then you're going to subtract and get 6x equals 33. And then if you divide by 6, x would be, you can divide those both by 3, so 11 over 2. So that would be your answer for that one. Okay? Looking at this example, we want to find the segment x. So again, you're going to set up ratios. So you're going to do 10 over x equals 15 over 12, because this is going to divide it into 2 proportionals. So 10 over x would equal 15 over 12, and then 15x would equal 120. And if you divide, x would equal 8. And so that would be your answer there. Looking at this other one, it's the same kind of problem. You just have to make your ratios. So if y'all want to pause the video and try this one by yourself, and then unpause the video and I'll go over it. So one ratio you could make would be x over 6, and the other one could be 20 over 14. You could have 6 over x equals 14 over 20, or some other combination. But when you cross multiply, you should get 14x equals 120. So if you have this, then your ratios worked. If you didn't have this, then that means you had them mixed up somehow. So then when you divide by 14, it's going to reduce to 60 over 7. So that would be your x value for that one. Okay, so that's all from lesson 8. Lesson 9, we didn't really have anything that we needed to cover because it was all covered in geometry. And we're not going to be doing proofs in pre-cal, so we're skipping those completely. I know you're so disappointed about that. But no proofs. You don't have to worry about proofs in pre-cal or calculus. So for equations of a line, the horizontal line has a slope of 0. Horizontal lines look like this. Vertical lines have an undefined slope, and so they look like this. And they don't ever cross the x-axis. They only cross the, they don't ever cross the y-axis. They only cross the x-axis at the x-intercept. So vertical lines do not have slope. For a horizontal line, the equation is going to be y equals some number for a vertical line, the equation is going to be x equals some number. And the way that I remember it, if it is y equals, it's going this direction, it's crossing through the y-axis only. And if it's x equals, it's going this direction and it's only going through the x-axis. So that's how I remember if it's y equals or x equals. So if you have a line that's not vertical or not horizontal, it's going to have a slope and a y-intercept. And so you can determine the slope, and if you can determine where it crosses the y-axis, then you can make the equation of the line. And we're usually going to do y equals mx plus b. That's slope-intercept form. Remember, if you are going up, then you have a positive slope, and if you're going down, you have a negative slope. Your little man always comes from the left, as we show here. So as time goes on, you increase or you decrease. This m is slope, and this b is y-intercept. So we want to find the slope-intercept form of the equation that passes through these 2 points. So I'm going to review our slope formula. It's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So your slope, our y2 is negative 3 minus 2, and our x2, we picked this as our y2, so that means that this one has to be our x2. So we're going to do 4 minus a negative 3, so that's going to become a plus. So that'll give us negative 5 over 7. So that's your slope. So now we're going to use y equals mx plus b to find our y-intercept. So you can use either point. It doesn't matter which one you choose. I'm going to just use the first one. So negative 3 equals m is negative 5 over 7. Whoops, not negative 3. If I'm going to use this first point, it's going to be 2. So 2 equals negative 5 over 7 times negative 3 plus b. Or you could use this point. You'll get the same thing either way. It doesn't matter. So if I multiply, I will get positive 15 over 7 plus b. So I'm going to make 2 14 over 7, and then minus 15 over 7 is going to be what my b equals. So b is going to equal negative 1 over 7. So y equals negative 5 over 7x minus 1 over 7. And that would be the equation of that line. Okay? So hopefully you remember a little bit of how to do that from either Algebra 2 or Geometry. We're going to look at another example. So this one says the point negative 2, 5, and then it's perpendicular to the line 3y plus 4x equals 2. So first thing we need to do is solve this equation for y. So 3y equals negative 4x plus 2. And then divide by 3. So our slope here is negative 4/3. But we want a perpendicular line. So your perpendicular slopes are always the negative reciprocals. So negative 3/4. So that's our slope that we're going to use, and the point we're going to use is negative 2, 5. So y equals mx plus b. Our y value is 5. Our m is 3 over 4, and our x is negative 2. So if you multiply, you'll get negative 3 over 2 plus b. This 5 is the same thing as 10 over 2, and then we can add 3 over 2. So our b value would be 13 over 2. So we would have y equals our slope. We're using the perpendicular slope. So 3/4 x, and then plus 13 over 2. So that would be your equation for that line. Okay, now we want to find the equations of lines A and B using the graph here. So if we start with line A, that is going through the y-axis only. It's a horizontal line, and it's going through at negative 2. So the equation for A is going to be y equals negative 2. Okay, for B, it's going to require us to find the slope. So here's one point. That one looks like it, but it's not exactly. And then the only other one is up here. And so if we go up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our slope is going to be a positive 11 over 5. And then it doesn't go through the y-axis anywhere, so we're going to have to find the equation. So y equals mx plus b. Our slope is 11 over 5, and then we use one of these 2 points that we just found. So I'm going to use negative 1, 6. So our y value is 6, and our x is negative 1. So 6 would equal 11 over 5, negative 11 over 5, plus b. 6 would be 30 over 5, and then plus 11 over 5. So our b value would be 41 over 5. So our equation is y equals 11 over 5x plus 41 over 5. And so that would be your answer for that one. Okay? So now we're going to look at rationalizing our denominators. You can't have radicals in your denominator. So to rationalize them, if you only have one term, then you'll just multiply by whatever's in the denominator. But on this one, we have two terms in our denominator, so we have to multiply by the conjugate. The conjugate is going to be the 2 and the 3 squared to 3 with the sign in the middle switched. So instead of it being a minus, it's going to be a plus. So we're going to have 2 plus 3 squared to 3. So then we're going to distribute. We'll have 8 plus 12 squared to 3 plus 2 squared to 3, and then plus 3 times the square root of 9, so 3 times 3, which is 9, all over 4 plus 6 squared to 3 minus 6 squared to 3, and then minus 9 times the square root of 9. So 9 times 3 is 27. In the numerator, the 8 and the 9 combine to make 17, and the 12 and the 2 add to make 14 square roots of 2, or square roots of 3. And then in the denominator, these two should cancel. If they don't, you've done something wrong. We're trying to make our radicals cancel. And then 4 minus 27 is negative 23. So we don't like to have a negative in our denominator, so we switch all of the signs. So that's negative 17 minus 14 square roots of 3 over a positive 23. And so that would be our answer there. Okay, so we're going to look at another one, rationalizing denominators. You also can't leave an I in your denominator. So since we can't have an I, we're also going to multiply this by the conjugate. And so the conjugate here would be negative 2i minus 4. But if you look up here, if we try to distribute, we're going to end up with a lot of terms. So what we want to do first is simplify this before we multiply by the conjugate. So that would be 2i cubed is going to become a positive I, and then this is going to become a positive 2i. And then over negative 2i plus 4, which would be 2 plus 3i. And then if you want to make it 4 minus 2i, you can. And then our conjugate is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be 4 plus 2i over 4 plus 2i. So you can multiply here if you want, but it's going to make it a little bit more work later. So I would go and simplify and then multiply. So you could still use the same conjugate, or you can use this one. Either way, it'll work out the same. So we're going to distribute, and we'll have 8 plus 4i plus 12i, and then plus 6i squared, so minus 6. All over 16 plus 8i minus 8i, and then minus 4i squared. The i squared is going to turn into a positive. And so then you can combine in the numerator to make 2 plus 16i, and those will cancel. And we have 16 plus 4, which will give us 20. And remember, we always want to put it in a plus bi form. So 2 over 20 is 1 over 10. And then 16 over 20 is 4 over 5i. And so that would be your answer for that one. Okay, so now we're going to look at completing the square. The steps for completing the square. You have completed the square before. This is hopefully going to be review. You want to put it in general form. So that's ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And then you want to move your c over so that it's by itself. And then you're going to divide by your whatever the coefficient of x squared is. And then you're going to take half of that coefficient, square it, and add it to both the left and the right side. So add it to the left and to the right side. Simplify and solve for x. So we're going to go over that. If y'all want to pause that and write it down, you can. But I'm about to go over exactly what to do. So let's look at this one. We want to put it in general form. So you want 3x squared minus x, and then leave a space and equals negative 5. Okay, you want your x's on one side and your number all by itself. You're going to divide everything by the coefficient of the x squared, which is a 3 here. So we're going to have x squared minus 1/3 x equals negative 5 over 3. And then this coefficient here, negative 1/3, you're going to multiply it by 1/2, which is negative 1/6. And then you're going to square negative 1/6, which will give you a positive 1 over 36. So you're going to add 1 over 36 to both sides of your equation. Then you're going to factor over here. And it's always going to factor as x, some number, and squared. And the number is going to be right here. So it's going to be minus 1/6. If this is a minus, that sign's going to carry down. If it's a plus, then it's going to carry down. Whatever the sign is of this number, it's going to go right there as well. And then on the right side, we just need to combine our like terms. So this is a 36. So 3 times 12 would be 36. And 5 times 12 would be 60. So negative 60 plus 1 is negative 59 over 36. From there, you're going to take the square root of both sides. And so you're going to have x minus 1/6 equals plus or minus the square root of 59. We can't reduce, but we can take the negative out and make it an I. And then we know the square root of 36 is 6. And then the last step is just to make it x, add the 1/6. So x equals 1/6 plus or minus the square root of 59 over 6i. And so that would be your answer for that completing the square. So hopefully that's review. If y'all need to go home and re-watch this video as you're working through one on your homework, that's fine. But completing the square is something that you want to make sure you get down because it's not going to go away. So hopefully that helps you a little bit with remembering how to do it. On your homework, you do get to omit 15, 16, 17, 18, 25, and 26. So you only have 24 questions to do tonight for your homework. So make sure to do those so we can go over your questions tomorrow.